Hello and welcome to 2024. This month is January, and I have invited my friend and author of The Laws of the Universe and the Bible, Lori Kostenuk, back with me to discuss something very special. Every month of this year, we will get together for a conversation on the laws of the universe. Each month, we'll discuss a different law, and because it turns out that there is 12 laws of the universe, we will do a different law each month. This month, however, we'll be discussing two laws that work well together, and we'll focus on them for this month and next month. So we'll spend 2 months on them, just because they're very important. And so we will begin to talk about the laws and explain them, how it applies to our daily lives, and how we can create the life that we want. And then we'll give you some practical examples and even some exercises that you can play with and see for yourself how the law can work for you. But before we begin, I'd like to touch on why we chose the laws of the universe. Obviously, not just because, Lori, you wrote a book on it, but why are we spending a month every month of this year on each law? And why are they so important? Why should we know about the laws of the universe? And what difference can the laws make in our lives? So you all know about the law of gravity, and we all see its effects every day. Well, that is a law of the universe. It's a universal law that our Creator put in place. And those laws, all of them have been created by God, the Creator, Source, or whatever you want to call it. And He created them so that there could be some kind of order in our world. And the purpose of them is that if we follow them, if we work with the laws, then the laws work for us. And our lives just flow in an expansive, creative way for more growth, success, and abundance. So for me personally, I came across the laws of the universe a couple years ago while looking for answers on my own healing journey. And I wanted to understand this world, how it works, how we can get things work for ourselves, and how can I be more successful? How can I reach my goals? How can I change things within me and outside of me? How can I create the life that I want and create the world of my dreams? So I'll backtrack a little bit from there because I came across the laws a couple years ago, and that's how I learned about the theory of them. But I actually realized that when I learned about them, I went back to my experience and I thought to myself, oh, I understand now why things work the way they did in my life and why I am where I am today and how I got the things that I have in my life today. So for those of you who know me, I'm from Europe, and I moved to Canada about actually 7 years ago, and I just became a Canadian citizen last year. But so in those 7-8 years, probably even prior to that, I was implementing things in my life, changes and principles to attract to me the things that I wanted. Move to Canada, find a job, find a husband, create a family, etc. Like down to all the details in my life. And so intuitively, I realized that I was already applying all these principles. And so when I learned about the laws of the universe, it kind of clicked for me. And I realized, oh, I already knew this inside of me. I was already doing this. And now that I know about it, like the framework, the theory, I understand what happened in my experience, but I can better implement it in the future because I can reproduce it over and over again because now I know the framework. I know the ingredients to make the manifestation soup, right? And I'm able also to observe it around me with in other people's lives. You can see clearly like why things work, why things don't work. If you kind of look from an outsider perspective. So that really brought me a very good understanding of just how reality works. And it's so eye-opening. And so here we are today. Thank you, Lori, for agreeing to not that it was a big ask, but thank you for being with me here on this journey. It's so exciting. We are going to speak about all the laws, and there is 12 laws that have been defined, and of course there's a lot of principles within the laws that we're going to touch on. And so we really want to emphasize that by knowing those natural, unchanging, eternal principles that actually ancient cultures knew about intuitively years ago, you can empower yourself to live according to your true divine purpose. And that's what we want to bring to you. And how do you do that? Well, if you align yourself with the laws and you're being in harmony with the laws, you can create the rich, abundant life that you're dreaming of. And it's truly magic because it works. I've proven it for myself without even knowing the laws. And now that I know the laws, I'm like, yes, let's do this. 10 times accelerated, like more and more. So that's for my story on the laws. And so what about you, Lori? How did you first learn about the laws of the universe? And our previous chat was about your book and how you came to write about it. But so we can touch on that again today. How the laws inspired you to write your book and how they transformed your life.
Hi, Laura. Thank you so much for having me. And it's going to be so fun doing this workshop series together. My story is we learned about the laws of the universe by, I guess we had to learn them, or our son was going to be no more. We just knew there was an answer. You see God, he made this creation. We know it was perfect. And yet, what did God plan for healing? Our son had uncontrollable anxiety. And we knew that there must be some way that God intended for man to heal. And we know, like you talked about flow and harmony, and being able to tap into these laws. And you look at nature around us, you see water flows downhill. I mean, that's a law. Okay. You've got currents, you've got the ebb and flow of the tides. And so I knew that there had to be some natural way for humanity to heal. And Revelation 22:2 talks about the healing leaves on the tree of life available for all nations. So that spoke to me that there was a hidden plan that God had planned for our healing. And so sure enough, after seeking external answers everywhere, we went to medical doctors, psychologists, we went to church clergy, but the answers were within them. Mm-hmm. And learning how to tap into the laws of the universe. And even Jesus spoke about it. Like, he talked about this. What we send out is what you're going to receive back. So we have to be aware of our energy, what we're sending. If, like you say, if we're what we focus on will expand, whether it's good or bad. So if we're focused on our anxiety and we're stuck in our head, stuck in our ego, and we've got these fears, well, that's going to expand. Whereas if we learn to, well, we're going to talk more about this, about tapping into becoming present. And the more we become present, the less we're stuck in our ego, but we can talk about that. But our son had to learn new belief systems. He had to learn to speak differently. And so it was a process. So where we found healing was tapping into these laws. And yet I knew they had to be in the Bible somewhere.
Mhm.
And they're all there. I wrote a book about it.
Yes, and
So,
I read it.
yeah.
It's right here. And if people haven't read it yet, I would highly recommend it. It's a really good book. Yeah, that's amazing, Lori. Thank you for that. So, is there something else you want to add?
I guess we are all made in God's image, okay? And God is a creator, and he creates through his I ams, I am that I am. We too are created in his image, where we create through our I ams. And so our words are very, very powerful, very powerful. We speak our world into existence through our thoughts, belief systems. So if we don't like what we're seeing around us in our world, we better start changing some of our beliefs of who we think we are. Because, well, we'll be talking about the law of attraction as well tonight. So we'll discuss that further, about what we attract into our lives.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And actually, let's start with the law of vibration, because that's um, even before we talk about the law of attraction, which has become very mainstream. Has more people are more familiar with the law of attraction, but let's backtrack a bit and focus on the law of vibration for a little while, because the law of vibration actually sets the tone and sets the foundation for manifestation. And it's the first step to attracting things in our lives. So can you tell us a little bit, Lori, about the law of vibration and what it means?
Okay, so we learned about the law of vibration. Well, we learned about, I guess, this subject, the law of vibration, in grade 8. I just remember learning about the solids, liquids, and gas, and the atoms. And, the closer they're together, the more solid the object is. And the more spread apart they are, they become, like, you got ice becoming water, and then eventually it evaporates into vapor. And so I understood that principle. So that clicked with me when I just thought about that. Everything is energy. Everything we see around us is energy. So everything is 99.99% energy. I know that's hard to believe, because we can touch and feel things, and it feels, we can feel things. So I know that's hard to comprehend, but it's all atoms and molecules. And so, so even our thoughts, our feelings, physical objects that we see, they're all energy.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you take, I'll just read you a little piece of my book that just kind of helps explain this in a just a quick little way. It's about so when you research out, just lost my page here. Oh yeah, all thoughts and feelings have its own vibrational frequency. Thoughts and feeling of love, peace, and joy have a high vibrating frequency. In contrast, feelings of anger, fear, guilt, apathy, hate, or shame have a low vibrating frequency, a very dense. So in other words, your thoughts are inseparably connected to the rest of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
As you choose good thoughts, you're going to have good thoughts be attracted back to you. And so the most common measure for vibrational frequency is the hertz. Okay, the hertz is the measure. So there's one vibrational cycle per second. So if a frequency is 460 hertz, that means that there are 460 cycles per second. And frequency is vibrating fast enough, it is emitted as a color of light. And if we wanted to convert sound to light, we would just increase the frequency. So you could take a chord on a piano And if you want to increase that frequency, it becomes a cord of light. So it's a fascinating study. I've studied the Copenhagen interpretation, where we've got two scientists that study that. I go in great detail on that in my book, and it's about the wave particle and the disagreement that these two scientists had about well, whether this is a wave particle or a wave or a particle. And if it turns out that it's what we focus on. So if you're focusing on something, it's a wave, and then if you're focused long enough, it turns into particles. So that's manifestation. Okay, so it's fascinating. Like this this quantum physics just totally fascinate me.
Exactly. And for people who might not be too familiar with the world of energies or with that language, actually, when you take a step back and take a moment to observe the world and reality in your own experiences, and if you don't need much understanding to be aware of what's happening and to understand that, well, nothing in the universe is stagnant. Nothing rests or doesn't change. Everything in the universe, in this world, changes, and we literally live in an ocean of motion. And so even our emotions are energies in motion. So everything we experience in our reality is vibration. And the way we measure that scientifically is with frequency, like you said. And so just sitting with that understanding that everything we see, everything I feel and experience has a vibration, has a frequency. And they're all different. And so then you start seeing the world differently, right? Because then you can attune yourself and be in tune with the energies around you, with the vibrations, with the frequency, and it can start with music, for example. You can feel vibrations of a drum when you're sitting in a room listening to an orchestra. You feel the vibration, you feel the frequency of that, the music that's being played, and that's energy. When your heartbeat is has a frequency. It beats at a certain rhythm. That's energy. It's life energy.
Yeah, exactly.
The wind, like things that are in motion, that you can visibly or sense with your senses, that have a motion, it's energy. But also, like you said, things that are that seems immobile or static, like a chair, a wall, a rock, you'd be like, right, no way. There's no energy there, right? There's no frequency. It doesn't move. It's not alive. It's dead. Well, no, we know everything has a frequency because we see it. So it has color, it has texture, it has a temperature, and more, even more than that. Things that we can't really perceive with our senses, and that goes into like the quantum realm, and even deeper than that, consciousness itself. So maybe we don't need to get too deep today about all these things, but you can probably relate to just those little simple examples that, yes, everything around me is energy. And so what does that mean for my life, my experience? Well, tell us, Lori.
Well, okay, so let's take this cup, for instance. Okay, this cup.
Yeah, I see it.
Doing this right? You see it? Okay. Okay. So this cup is just a mass amount of vibrating atoms. Okay, and they're the same atoms. They're like attracts like. Okay, so like atoms attract like. So the reason this is able to stay together and become a solid is because it's all the same atoms attracting each other together. And then you have this Kleenex. It's it's flowing at a different frequency, rate of frequency. So it's creating a Kleenex based on the like attracts like. And so as far as how do we attract in our own world, how do we, if we know the vibration of something, how do we know the vibration of something? Say we want to build a house. Okay, so how do we know the vibration of that to attract it into our life? Well, for one thing, we know we have to focus on it. Okay, because when we focus on something, it expands. And Jesus even said in Mark 11:24, he said, ask, believe that you've received it, and it shall be yours. So, I mean, Jesus isn't speaking in terms of energy, but it's the same laws. It's the same law that if you believe and if you got a goal, and this is why we set goals, because we plan on attaining them. So how do we attract it? Well, we have to visualize it. We have to know what we want, and we have to touch it, taste it, feel it. We have, as if we've already received it. As Jesus says, ask, believe that you've received it, and it will be yours. So,
and that requires faith.
Yes, it requires faith. In the energy world, we call it or belief or attaining the higher our faith, we go to a higher level of consciousness, we could say. That's one way of saying it. The energy world doesn't use the word faith so much, but they definitely use the word belief. We have to believe that we've received it. And so, and isn't that how goals are realized? We get closer and closer to our goal. We get closer and closer the more we focus on it. And so in actuality, we're doing most of these we're tapping into a lot of these laws anyways, whether we know it or not.
Yeah,
but what's beautiful is that when you understand how that works, like when you understand the law, then you can be proactive with it, and you can use it to create, as opposed to not knowing about it and then finding yourself in a situation where you're in a bad way, maybe depressed, maybe anxiety. And so then you attract more of that into your world.
Yeah. So it's the difference between being a conscious creator of your life, which is coming from a place of empowerment.
Right.
You realize that the power is within me, not really of my own doing, because I'm tapping into a higher power that is stronger than me. And those have been established by our creator. All these laws of the universe, I didn't make them up. They were there before I was here. They'll be there after I was there. I will be there. And so there's an opportunity, a choice to live your life from that perspective, or to let things happen to you. And that kind of falls into like a victim mentality. Like, you're not in control. You don't consciously decide or create, and things just keep happening to you in a vicious cycle. Patterns keeps repeating themselves, and you feel like you can't change. You can't do anything about it, even if you try hard, or you want to, but it's not working for you. And so the question is, why isn't it working for you? Well, let's backtrack a little bit. And I like to go back to that one fundamental truth, is that everything starts with our thoughts, right? And so thoughts are also vibrations. They're vibrations of energy. So thoughts are energies. And so our thoughts are creative. We create with our thoughts. And so from thoughts, we speak the words, or we embody our thoughts into actions, and it becomes attitudes and behaviors, and then it becomes who we are. And so using our creative faculty that is a divine gift, and the higher faculties of our mind, we can decide which thought we're thinking, and we can decide at a thought level where we set our vibration. And so our thought are not just for us, they're also like vibration that are sent out into the universe, and God hears all our thoughts. And so that reverberation of our thoughts gets sent out into the universe, and then it comes back to us equally. So the same vibration that we sent out through our thoughts comes back to us to match that same frequency, because the God is a just God. Like, the laws of the universe are always working everywhere, every time, all the time, for everybody.
We can't escape them.
No. So that's why we need to learn about it and make them work for us, because that can transform our lives. And so these thoughts that we sent out, then they'll bring back to us, and that gets into the law of attraction, that we'll get into it more later. It'll match the frequency of our thoughts and send us experiences or people or things into our lives that matches emotions as well, or more of the same thoughts to match that same frequency, because everything is equal. And so, our mind is constantly vibrating. Our mind is constantly attracting vibrations through our thoughts, and those harmonize with what dominates your mind. So if I always think, I'm so stupid, I did this again, like, I can't learn anything, like, I always repeat the same mistakes, like, you'll never learn. And so if I say these things in my mind, if my thoughts are that negative and low vibrational, really, well, that's what I'm focusing on. So that's what I'm going to attract more of. So then I'll attract to myself experiences and people that just match that and confirm what I've already set out.
Right.
And so you were speaking about the I am, which is the I am is the creation moment. Everything we put after the I am just is. It just gets instantly created and manifested. I am late. Sure enough, you'll be late. I am powerful. I am happy. I am whatever follows is what is and what will become.
Joel 3:10 says, let the weak say, I am strong. So that's pretty powerful too, that we do create through our I ams. And so our thoughts create our belief system. So if we continually think, as you were saying, Laura, as we continue to think the same negative thoughts, well, then that becomes our belief system. And a child who hears maybe the first time, you're so stupid, their conscious mind will say, well, that's not true. I know I'm a straight A student. But if they still hear that enough times without being reinforced by the opposite, then they will begin to believe that, because it creates brain paths. It creates new brain paths. And then it becomes, every time they hear it, it becomes deeper and deeper. And then they think it, and then that it gets deeper and deeper.
Which is another ingredient of the manifestation process, repetition.
Yes.
The more things gets repeated over and over again, whether it's yourself, your own inner dialogue, your own thoughts, or someone that's telling you something. So whether it's coming from the inside or the outside, the repetition of it is just going to reinforce it. And the more you focus on that, the more it expands, the more it brings that into your life. And also the more it gets imprinted into your subconscious mind. And then it becomes you.
Yeah.
So
and our subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between true and false. It just believes what it hears more of.
Exactly. Yeah.
So words are powerful, especially when raising children. Like, well, all the time they're powerful, but we need to be conscious of that when around children. And
so the reason that is because children have a wide open subconscious mind up until they're about 7 years
Mhm.
old. And so they truly are a sponge, and they absorb everything, they hear everything, they experience, and it gets
Mhm.
programmed into their belief system, and it's wired into their subconscious mind.
Yep.
So in a way, the first 7 years of their lives, whatever they consciously, their brain is not developed enough that they can filter things, that they can reason and sort through things. And so it only happens after. And then everybody has to do some deprogramming and deconstructing of whatever has happened to us in our
Mhm.
childhood, because of the experiences that we've contracted or have had. And that is okay. That is the point of life. That's the
Mhm.
journey, right?
Yeah. It's almost like when a child is born, they it's like they have an empty filing cabinet. But as they go through life, there's more and more files get put in. And
Mm-hmm.
the parents are huge at putting those files in, and they get, for the most part, they get to choose what goes in those filing cabinets the first few years. And so I like the old saying goes, every child is an artist until they're told they're not.
Mm-hmm.
you know like their creativity, their imagination is unending
Mm-hmm.
until
Which
yeah.
tells about the way we were created by design is with a creative mind, with those higher
Mhm.
mental faculties that are there to serve us. And those are truly a divine gift that if we
Mhm.
understand it, we can use it to our own advantage for creation, for growth, for abundance, for success in our lives. And
Mhm.
that's all God wants of us. He wants the best for us.
Mhm.
And
Just I wanted to touch say one thing too with regards to God wants the best for us. Like he wants us to flow. Like a lot of people think, oh well, you know yeah, we do learn through going through tough experiences, but yet we learn, once we learn to tap into these laws, we learn the path of least resistance, that the path of
Mhm,
least resistance is actually what's best for us. And when I say the path of least resistance, what I mean by that is following the path that God naturally put into our blueprint in our lives. So we all have a
mhm,
blueprint. We all have a blueprint that God put in with us. Just like the oak tree. The oak tree has a blueprint.
mhm,
And it just naturally folds into it. It doesn't fight the blueprint. But what do we have that the oak tree doesn't have is we have an ego, and our ego is just constantly resisting the blueprint. But I just want to take a look at Hosea in the Bible. Hosea, he married a prostitute, Gomer, and God created a path for her, and it was a path in between two rows of thorns, hedges of thorns. And if she stayed on the path, there'd be flow and harmony in her life. But if she turned to the right or turned to the left, she would hit the thorns. And
mhm,
then she would know pain and suffering. So when we come across um, pain and suffering, say, um, my first thought would be, okay, what am I supposed to learn from this? Or
mhm,
what good is in this that I'm not getting right now?
mhm.
Or
Yes.
but God wants, he's constantly realigning us or
Mhm,
realigning us or recalculating our route or putting us back on
mhm.
the path.
And actually, I've learned now that pain and suffering is an indicator that of you not being aligned with God, source, the laws, all of that. So when you come across something in your life that it's a stumbling stone, a barrier, you hit a wall, you hit rock bottom, whatever it is, like you said, there's resistance. The question is, okay, go back inwards inside. Where am I not aligned with the universe, with God, with the laws, with where am I resisting or going against the flow? How can I harmonize, balance myself, and align myself to these laws so that things can flow in a natural way and I just naturally go forward
Mhm.
into more creation, more growth, more abundance, more success. And so that's an indicator
Yeah.
in itself. And
Yes.
it shows up in all the little aspects of our lives.
Mhm.
But if we
And
understand those big principles, then
yes,
we can start seeing how it can apply to absolutely everything.
exactly. And sometimes we hit a closed door, and maybe that's, well, that is God saying, okay, not this way. It's kind of like that hedge of thorns. Okay, no, not this way, So there's another open door, and we go through another open door, and so it's okay. It's all about looking inward, and
Mhm.
and we all hit these. We all hit pain and suffering. We all hit the thorns. No one's exempt from it, but the difference is whether we don't resist it, but we learn from it, like realign ourselves.
Mhm.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Or else sometimes we're in status quo and nothing, we're in flow. We're just doing status quo. But sometimes God just thinks that, okay, well, you're ready for the next high,
Mhm.
you're ready for a higher level of consciousness now. So he kind of forces us to go inward. Like I know with my son, um, every time he got to thinking he was done, well, something else hit. But then he's forced to go inward, so it took him higher. So you could
Deeper.
say every deeper. So every pain and suffering that he went through, his journey was like this.
Mhm.
So he went higher and higher and higher. So sometimes we view our ego will. So just for those who aren't familiar with that term, ego, it's another word for our human. Okay,
Human
so
nature. Yeah.
human nature, or our flesh. Some people call it flesh. We have the two guidance systems. We have the divine guidance system within us, and then we have our ego.
Mhm.
And so sometimes our ego makes assumptions as to what is bad, what is a bad experience, and what is a good experience.
Mhm. That's judgment.
And yes, and we've learned that. We've learned, oh, okay, that's a bad thing. Oh, okay, well, that's a good thing. And you all know the story of the Chinese farmer. Did I tell you that? Did we talk about
I'm
that
not
before?
sure.
Okay, I'll just quickly little summarize it. It's this Chinese farmer. Uh, he had one horse, and he had one horse and one son. And so then his horse uh, ran away. And so then the neighbors came and, oh, that's too bad. Your horse ran away. And he says, maybe. And then the next day, the horse came back with 7 horses. And so they said, wow, the neighbors said that, wow, that's good. Yeah, maybe, maybe. And then the son was trying to break a horse, was riding on it, trying to train one, and he fell off and broke his leg. And the neighbors come around, oh, that's bad. Maybe. And then the next day, the conscription officers came around wanting to take their son to war, but he had broke his leg, so he couldn't go. So, we have our own ideas of what's
Mhm.
good or bad, but everything leads us to a
Yes.
point.
Yes.
And just to be able to look at experiences from observing, as opposed to
Mhm.
getting totally, having to into judgment, I guess that's the good word. We get into a
Mhm.
judgment. This is right. This is wrong. I'm supposed to feel this way. I'm supposed to feel
Mhm.
this way for this situation. But
Yeah. And being in the position of the observer, then we get to take that step back and ask ourselves, okay, what can I learn from this? And
mhm,
how was it not aligned in this experience? And how can I do better next time? And that's a growth mindset, right? Right.
mhm,
Rather than getting stuck and upset with um, the negativity, which again lowers our vibration.
right.
So something I heard about feeling and how it relates to the law of vibration was interesting. It said that feeling was a word invented to describe or our conscious awareness of the vibration we are in. So whether we feel good or bad, um, sometimes we're like, oh, I don't know how to put words on this, but I just feel weird, right? Well, that's our conscious awareness of, well, we're in a low vibration. Like I feel
Mhm,
yuck. Like, oh,
Yeah.
well, I'm in low vibration. Then, okay, what are you doing? What are you thinking that is not aligned? And if you feel bad, like maybe you're emotionally involved with the wrong kind of idea. So again, it goes back to your thinking.
Hmm.
And on the other side, like, oh, I feel so great. This is fun. Well, you're aware and conscious that you're in a high vibration. And so the more you cultivate that, the more you'll send out those vibes out. And then the more you'll attract to you the same kind of vibes in a different experience, in a different way. Might be people, might be more different, more thoughts of the same, more feeling of the same, and so on.
Oh, yeah. So true. So true. And it's pretty cool how our vibrations, what we send out, there really is no distance um, that they affect. Like, for instance, my husband was in across the world in Ukraine, and he got robbed in the subway. I felt that very moment that he was robbed, and I was back home in Canada. And it's, energy. I guess we're gonna have a session on this, but we're all connected. We're
Mm-hmm.
all one.
Mm-hmm.
So it's and the more awareness we have, the more we can influence that.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yes, that's definitely one of the laws, the law of divine oneness, or the law of one, and we'll definitely spend a whole episode on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
One thing I do want to mention is is all matter, thoughts and feelings, and everything we see can be measured in hertz. And like, for instance, the vibration of love is 528 hertz. And I think that's a common measurement out there. I'm not sure, how you. I mean, I have watched some of them, how they calculate it, but it's just fascinating to me. And then you've got your depression or fear is the opposite to the law
Mm-hmm.
of love, and so that's down there, roughly at 25 hertz or
Mm-hmm.
somewhere around there. Death is zero, obviously, but so a question that we could ask ourselves throughout our day is, and I guess this is what you're going to be going into, and how to attract is, okay, how do I increase that frequency? How do I attract more things in that frequency? If I'm angry, that's takes us down to a
Mm-hmm.
few vibrations. So anyways, we fluctuate all the time, and nobody's constant. Nobody's is totally up there in that divine love vibration, but then, nobody's down there always in that,
Mm-hmm.
for the most part, in that the dumps, you could say.
Mm-hmm.
But we all fluctuate on that scale. But to be able to influence and have that awareness where we
Mm-hmm.
can consciously, proactively influence where we vibrate. And of course, the higher up we go on the frequency, on hertz, the better we feel. And the more
Mm-hmm.
alive, the more bliss.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So that is the law of attraction. And that idea that we want to align ourselves with whatever we want, whatever we desire, whatever we dream of, whatever we can imagine. And that process starts with our thinking, and then involving feelings, like getting emotionally involved with those ideas, and then repeating that over and over again. Because the more you repeat it, the more you focus on that, the more it'll create of the same, the more it will expand, the more you will attract that vibration, that energy into your life. And it will manifest in different ways. And so we also have to keep ourselves open to the flow of life, as in, like, I am willing, I am open to attract whatever I need and whatever is aligned to what I'm sending out. Because if we let our mind get in the way and we attach meaning to outcomes, we judge things, we expect things, we make assumptions, and all these things, those are techniques or mechanism of the ego. Like you were saying, our ego gets in the way, our mind gets in the way. The ego mind gets in the way of the flow of life, of that manifestation process. But if we let go of that and just like sit in that present moment, which is the eternal now, it's a God moment. It's the only moment that we can attract things into our lives. It's now. It's not when I'm attached to outcomes in the future. It's not when I'm afraid of what's going to happen because in my past, things have not turned out the way I expected. Those are ego attachments. If I refocus, recenter myself into the now, the present moment, and I use those ingredients for the manifestation soup, faith and belief that it's already mine. I sense it. I feel it with all of my being, all my senses, through all my senses. And I'm grateful. I'm so happy and grateful that it's already mine, that it's there for me. Then boom, the magic happens.
Mm-hmm. And that feeling of I've got it, that's and you have to feel that gratitude too, because gratitude is normally, it's the highest state of receivership. So we normally are thankful when we have something. So if you don't have it yet, we could say, well, I'll be happy when I get that, or I'll be happy when this happens, or I'll be happy when my spouse does this, or I'll be happy when that person's nicer to me. But we have to choose gratitude now in this moment in order to attract as if we've already received it. Mm-hmm. So we can't wait until things happen. We need to be grateful now as if it's already happened. And one thing I will mention is when Jesus did his most profound miracles, whether it was the feeding of the 4,000 or the 5,000, or raising Lazarus from the dead, he thanked God in advance for the miracle before it even happened. And before he even raised Lazarus, he said, "Thank you, Father, for hearing me." And that was before the miracle even happened. And it's just like when we ask for something, do we say, "Oh, I sure hope God heard me," or do we thank God for taking care of it? And thank you, Father, for taking care of this situation. And I'm so glad you heard me. Mm-hmm. So it's just that gratitude is huge, because it's totally is. It's a huge shift in our awareness.
Mm-hmm. It's key, and we need all these ingredients for it to work, because it's only when we're embodying all these energies, and we're vibrating that high with gratitude, with faith, with belief, with intention, with focus, with presence, that puts us in a high vibrational state, and it brings about more of that, and it makes it just happen so easily in a way, and it almost sounds too good to be true. But yeah, that gratitude piece is what makes the difference between living from lack or living from abundance. So when we're grateful, we know that it's already ours, because we are abundant. We are connected to source. We have everything that we need, and all we need is always taken care of. That's one of the affirmations that I use every day, and that I'm going to leave with you at the end of our call today. And yes, just being so happy and grateful that this is already mine now. I am already this person. This is already happening, because now is the only time that exists. Present and future, past and future are just construct of the mind.
Yeah.
And they keep us distracted from the creation moment, which is the now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful. The past nows have gone. The future nows aren't here yet. This moment, this present moment is the only now that is real.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So one question that I've had over the years, learning about the laws and experimenting with them, was, well, when you're caught up in a moment of like you're down spiraling, right? Like your thoughts are, it always starts with one thought, and then one thought, it's like a domino
Mhm.
effect.
Downward
Then,
spiral.
yeah, and then you're caught up in that loop, and then you're aware of it in the middle of it, and you're like, how do I get out of this? Well, often, like, tell us what's your trick, Lori, because
Well,
you definitely
you finish yours. You finish your thought. I'd like to hear that.
well, there probably are a few tricks and solutions, but um, the few that I've learned over the years is, first you hit the reset button, you press it, you're like, okay, take a pause, take a moment, take a deep breath, come back to your body, because when you're in that spiraling moment, you're in your head, you're not being in the now, so you're not present in your body and you're not in the moment. So stop, take a moment, take a deep breath, come back to your body. If you need to fiddle with something, touch a chair, touch your heart, come back to your body in the now, take a deep breath, and then almost like, okay, snap out of it, like, think, what am I thinking right now? Because often, like, we're in automatic pilot, and it's automatic thinking and automatic behaviors, and that's when our programming kicks in, and that's the subconscious mind, um, and it runs by default. But that means we're not in creation, we're not consciously creating our life. So we need to step back from that and be like, okay, now what do I choose now? Being me first, like, what am I thinking now? Okay, and how am I being emotionally involved with that thought? Like, how does that thought make me feel? Okay, well, how can I change that? Well, let's think something else. Thank you, thought, for coming in. It doesn't serve me anymore. Goodbye, let it go. And now I choose to think this, and this makes me feel lighter. I choose how I think, I choose how I feel, and therefore I focus on that, and I this expands, and I attract more of that, and then suddenly, like, you've raised your vibration of your whole being, because you've changed your thoughts, you've changed the vibration of your thoughts, you've changed the vibration of your feelings, and then you're in a whole different place, and that emanates out of you. People can feel it, people can sense that, the universe sense that. Every being and living thing in the universe feels that. So we're really in tune with our world, and again, it goes into like the law of one. We're all connected, we're all one, and we influence each other. So that's the trick I found that helps me. Do I do that every time? No, sorry, I'm human. I fail too, which is why it happens again, and I get to learn from it and do better next time. But I know that when I do it, it changes everything, because then I am being in charge. I'm not letting my programming control me. I'm empowering myself to be a conscious creator of my life. And suddenly it changes the whole dynamic. And I start seeing that reflecting into my world, the outside. So then suddenly the relationship with my husband, with my children, with my friends, and even synchronicities, like experiences that come to me that are attracted into my daily life, it just lines up, it flows, because I've switched, I've raised my vibration. And then at the end of the day, you sit back and you observe what happened. You're like, wow, this was amazing. This is magic. I want to do this again.
So, Laura, you're probably able to do that because of your awareness. But
Mhm.
there are some people who get so depressed and they can't just switch like that.
Mhm.
So my advice to anybody with a depressed person, other than, whatever medical help they need, like it's a disclaimer here, but um, if I'm with somebody, like this is what I would say to my son, because our thoughts are equal to our level of vibration. So if we're really, really down in the dumps, we're depressed, we're vibrating at 25, 50 hertz. That's where our thoughts are going to be. And
Mhm.
so first of all, what I'll do is he'll say, he'll maybe say, I am this or I am that. That's really negative. So I will say, okay, can you rephrase that, please?
Mhm.
And
Yes.
so then he will rephrase it. And this, he can say this, even though he doesn't believe it. He didn't like, even though he wouldn't believe it at the time, because his thoughts are equal to his state of mind, or his level of consciousness. So, but even just saying, rephrasing it,
Mhm.
I'm so thankful that healing is coming back into me.
Yes.
Like just an affirmation like that. I am so thankful that healing is coming back into me. I am well on my way to recovery. And the thing is, with that, it creates new brain paths. And
Mhm.
at first he won't believe it. But the
Yes.
more he says it, the more deeper those brain paths become. And then it'll be an automatic switch to those brain
Yes.
paths.
Absolutely.
Or an alternative thing that I would do with him is I would just take him out to nature. And because his thoughts would be at a low place, so I would take him to a higher frequency place where he
Mhm.
doesn't have to think, like he's just being. When you're in the forest, you're looking at the trees and you're being instead of doing and thinking. And
Mhm.
so the nature acts like a tuning fork. It doesn't bring him right up, of course, but it would bring him up some. and
Mhm.
and then gradually, like that's why grounding is so important. Go sit out on the ground.
Yes.
Go allow that earth energy to come up through you. And
Mhm.
that helps increase our frequency immediately. And then of course, gratitude with it. Even though I will say, I would remind him, okay, what are you thankful for? And I'm thankful that I am, healing is coming back into me. I'm thankful for this. And I'm thankful for
Thankful I'm
that.
alive.
Yes, exactly. And then, like, this is a decade ago. Now he
Mhm.
is just, oh my
On his
goodness,
own.
he's creating amazing things in his world today because he's learned to tap into these
Yeah.
laws. Like he
Yeah.
can literally create at will. He literally
Mhm.
creates at will.
And that's what happens when the more
Yeah.
familiar you become with the process, the more naturally it becomes. And then you can do that with your eyes closed and when you sleep, so to
Yeah.
speak.
Yeah. Oh
And
yeah.
so I want to say thank you, Lori, for reminding me of this because yes, um, I 100% agree. And all these things I have tried in the past and I'm still doing as much as I can. Of course, the ideal scenario would be to do it all of them every day to keep yourself aligned and balanced and harmonized. But we're all human, right?
Mhm.
Um, nature, that tuning fork, beautiful. Yes, grounding. There is so much healing in that. And so when we're, like you said, when we're too deep in that downward spiral and we're not aware and we're not even able to
Mhm.
consciously change those thoughts and the patterns that we've created, then yes, changing our environment and often we live a life that is very much isolated from nature. Going back into nature, nature is so healing. It's high frequency,
Mhm.
high vibrational, high energies, and it can just like bring us back to being. And I love what you said, which was one of my biggest lessons and still is, being instead of doing and thinking.
Mhm.
And that is life's
Yeah.
purpose, is
Yeah.
to be now.
Yeah.
Nothing else matters.
Be still and know that I am God, right?
Yes, absolutely. And that I am, so that when we're in those negative thoughts, well, okay, let's work together to replace them. Instead of saying, oh, I'm so tired. Well, how about you say, um, I feel like I'm running out of energy and I'm also nourishing myself so that I can get more energy or something like that. Maybe that's not a very good example, but
Or yes, or just no, just like you say, observing, being aware. Like I try to catch myself when, say, I get upset about something. I'll try to stand back as a second person, and I'll go, I notice that Lori is starting to get upset here.
yeah.
Boy, look at that. She's starting to spew stuff out of her mouth. And then just being able to step back and observe that, it's light shining on the issue, so it dissipates. I just find that my anger just goes,
yes,
not
you
always,
disengage.
yes,
Yes, you
yes, you
disengage
disengage. Yes,
because you step back, you step outside of yourself in a way, and you're
yeah,
the observer of your life, and you're like a third person.
right. And let's ask that question: who is the observer? It's our greater being.
Yes, or higher
So
self.
higher self. It's our higher self, our greater being, our soul, whatever you want to call it. So as we can just step back, you pause, step back, and then you can observe the situation. It's your greater being or your higher self that's actually looking out through your eyes and observing. But when we're totally caught up in the emotion, that's our ego.
Yep.
Right. So that's huge. And we need to have that pause to be able to step back. And that's the difference. Yeah.
Yeah, which is interesting because it's all, again, it comes back to vibration. When you're caught up in that low vibrational downward spiral, you disengage, and then you go from a outside observer, and so then you it's like you unplug the wire, and then you plug the wire somewhere else into a different vibration.
Yes.
So now you're in tune with a different frequency.
Yes.
And something
Beautiful.
else something else I heard that was really cool is I said about feeling, how it's our conscious awareness of the vibration we're in. Well, our intuition, is what we pick up on a vibrational level. So it's the vibrations we pick up at an intuitive level that we translate into our mind as vibration. So if being intuitive or having intuition is tuning into those vibration energetically and translating them into our minds, because we use our mind as a tool, and then we verbalize it, or it becomes feelings or emotions, or we just feel it in our body. So that was like the explanation between what is intuition.
Yeah.
So it all comes back to vibration, to energy, right?
Right. That's a good way to explain it. Gut feeling, that's huge too. Like, which would be, you'd be able to pick up on stop, go, no, I can't do that. And just, and see, our ego is all about logic. Okay. Like, which logic is good to live in this world. We need logic, but there's something that goes beyond logic, and that's our intuition and our divine guidance, or our inner guidance, because our inner guidance knows more than our human, and our human just knows logic, right? Based on what we've learned, what we can see, what we can feel, what we can touch, whatnot. But our inner guidance has access to all information. So when we follow our inner guidance, that's the gut feeling, our intuition, having a knowing about something. And sometimes we all have that, but we don't know what it is. We don't know how to listen to it, or we're not tuned in to it. I'm not sure if I've got time to tell this little story, or should we go on to the assignments? Or
sure, you go ahead with the story.
Okay. So one time we were planning a trip to Thailand, and in 2008, I believe it was, and with our 4 children, and I was booking the trips, and I thought, let's go to Phuket. And my husband says, no, I just have a bad feeling about Phuket. I don't think so. Let's just go to the South Koh Samui. And so we did go to Koh Samui. And we had to pay more air tickets, because there's 6 extra when we could have not had that to go to Phuket. But to make a long story short, we were in Koh Samui, where my husband wanted to go, And that very time we were there, Phuket, the tsunami hit. Do you remember that? The tsunami
Yes.
that came through?
Mhm.
So he had a gut feeling. No, I just don't feel right about Phuket. I just don't feel right. Well, like there's no
Intuition.
logic. There's no logic to that,
No.
right? There's no logic. But he had a gut feeling. No. And thank goodness.
And that is him, like in the energy world, it's him picking up on energy, on vibrations that are out there in the universe.
Yes.
On a spiritual level, you could say the spirit was guiding him. God was talking to him
Mhm.
to guide him in the right direction and to avoid a disaster, right? But all in all, it's the same thing. It's just the way you verbalize it, the way you explain it, but
Right.
it's the same phenomenon, right?
Right.
And
Like he
actually,
wasn't aware. He wasn't aware of all these words we're saying, right?
right.
He just knew that no, that's my
Yeah.
gut. I don't like we all understand gut feelings, right?
Mhm.
So
But he knew
yeah,
enough to
yeah,
follow
he knew
that.
enough. Yes. And that's the difference. You know, God may have told everybody during the tsunami not to go, but maybe they didn't. Who knows? Like
Didn't
we'll never
follow.
know. We'll never know.
Mhm.
Yeah. But it's about
Mhm.
tuning in. And when we can know these laws, and then we can proactively tune in
Mhm.
and apply them to our own life and tap into and free flow with them.
Mhm.
There's healing. It affects our healing. It affects our living. It affects our
Mhm.
joy. And yeah,
It affects all aspects of our life.
yes, all aspects.
Yes. Okay, well, before we close, I want to leave people with some affirmations that they can focus on until our next call next month, and a little exercise that we can practice together, which is something I've been doing for years now, both affirmations and journaling. So, journaling some gratitude. And I think everybody should have a gratitude journal because that not only is in a way therapeutic, but it also sets the tone for the creative process and the manifestation process. So, with journaling, you can start with saying, I'm so happy and grateful that, and always use the present tense, because remember, we're manifesting, attracting things into the now, like the present moment, which is the only time that exists and matters. So I'm so happy and grateful that I am a healthy person.
Even if you're not healthy.
Yes. So even if you don't believe in it, even if you think it's not true, I am, and I'm so grateful that's the way it is now. And then you can go on. It can start with things like very simple things if you don't know what to write or what to think about. But I'm so happy and grateful for this new day. I'm so happy and grateful I am alive today. I'm so happy and grateful I get to take a deep breath in and out whenever I need. I'm so happy and grateful that I am alive to witness or see the beauty of the sun today or whatever. Like you can get really creative or very simple and just write as much as you want on page or pages and see what flows, and that really puts you in that energy of gratitude, that vibration, that high vibration of gratitude, and bringing into your life what you want. So you can even go further than that. I am so happy and grateful for things that you don't have yet in your life now, but you're already happy and grateful for them now, right?
Mhm.
So let's
And
think about that.
if I can add to that, so yes, write them down, but then speak them as well. So make
Mhm.
sure you read back what you wrote, say it several times a day, because when our words are powerful, because
Mhm.
we're talking
Absolutely.
to, yeah, and it creates new brain paths. I mean,
Yeah.
it's yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I did with affirmations as well. And you can do that with the gratitudes and a goal that you're setting. I'm so happy and grateful, and that I am attracting financial abundance into my life. Well, maybe you feel like you're not financially abundant now, but you are happy and grateful that you are attracting this into your life, and that you are already financially abundant now, and that's kind of your financial goal for the year. Well, go ahead and write that down and repeat that over and over again every day in your head. Say it out loud. With affirmations, I recorded them, and I was listening to my voice saying those affirmations. So you use all these techniques so that your
Right.
brain gets inputs of that the same high vibrational ideas over and over again in different ways, and then eventually it sinks in. And while you do that, you feel it as if it's already yours. You feel it with all your senses. You feel how would it feel to be me at that at that goal already achieved? How would it feel when whatever I'm thankful for was already here?
And if I could add to that, with regards to the financial, sometimes we get focused on the money we don't have. We get focused on the bills we can't pay. So it's good to thank God for the bills you can pay. And
Yes.
I'm so thankful that I can pay these bills, and I'm so thankful that I will be paying these, or whatever. And there's a few little tricks too that you can do with the financial stuff. And that is any check that comes in or any pay stub, just take a picture of it and put it in a binder. And then eventually, like even just little government checks or whatever, and then you just put it in a binder, and then you flip through. And because a lot of the time, like we feel, we have to have that feeling of abundance in order to attract it. Okay. So if you, whatever that takes, whether if you put $100 worth of coins in your pocket, if that makes you feel abundant, just walking around, or if you have a silver dollar or a gold bullion in your pocket, if that's what helps you feel abundance, whatever helps you feel abundant, because you have to feel it before you can receive it, because you have to attract it. You have to feel it first, and then you attract it after you feel it. You don't get it first and then have the gratitude. Try to have the gratitude first, because that's what attracts it.
Yes. Yeah. So always focus on what you want, not what you don't want, right? And that's also an ingredient of the manifestation and attraction process, because what you focus on expands. So you don't want to focus on what you don't want.
And what you don't have.
And what you don't have, because that's fear. And you're just going to attract more of that. So focus on what do you actually want, and ask yourself that question. What do I want? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, what would I like to get more of in my life?
Yeah. And the thing too is, what we ask for, like even for financial, I have some rules around that I use, and I feel good about it. You have to feel comfortable with it. But my purpose may be for asking for financial abundance, because especially in the Christian community, that's looked down on. And so, but the thing is, if our focus is on trying to work hard to pay bills, then we're not doing our purpose. We're not focused on our purpose for life. So I would maybe ask that question. And I tend to ask a lot of open-ended questions. And I'll just throw them out there. I'll say, what would it take for X amount of, financial, wealth to appear, so that I can, I don't get stressed out over money, and I can focus over here where I need to be focused, and so that you could be glorified, Father. And so I will always add that on to the end of my prayers. It's all about glorifying God. And then when you do receive it, then he gets the credit and you glorify him. And that creates a positive cycle. And yeah, I mean, that's a whole, I have a chapter on abundance in my book on how to attract abundance, but yet there is a danger of, even though you can attract it, you can ask for it, you can believe you've received it, it still can, there's a danger of a selfish quality, which can bring leanness to our soul, as the Old Testament talks about. But when you've got good motives, if you want to help other people, or you want to be able to focus on you don't want to be worried about paying these bills. You want to
Mhm.
be focused on your greater
Yes.
purpose.
Which
you know?
it's the intention behind it. Like,
Yes.
why are you doing this?
Yes,
Is it
exactly.
to serve yourself, your own ego? Is that your purpose, or is it to serve others and serve the greater good? Like
Yes.
serve your purpose, what you're meant to do here.
Mhm.
Serve God. That's what we mean by serving God, right? So
Yeah.
that's the difference. Like, are you serving
Yeah.
others, or are you serving yourself?
Yeah, it's right. And it all comes down to motives. And so if we did have the motive to serve ourselves, chances are we're more ego than we are.
Yeah.
Like, that's low vibration.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So,
Okay.
and
And so, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, there's one thing that I would like to leave with you, and that is about, like, for the assignment part, or the takeaways, and that is to get into the habit of whatever you feel you need, to ask an open-ended question, like, what would it take for such and such to appear, or what would it take for me to get this job? I mean, sometimes you're not meant to get a certain job, and yet you're asking for it. So what I would tend to do is, what would it take for me to get, say, this specific job, if that is what's in my best interest?
Yeah.
Because God knows, or he knows more, or you call him the universe, or some people call him the universe, or source, whatever you feel comfortable calling him. But I use the word God, and so I will quite often just speak and ask, and then whatever shows up. And when you ask open-ended questions, then whatever shows up will be best. Because sometimes we limit him when we ask for specifics.
And we let go of attachment to outcomes.
Right.
Like we detach ourselves. We let it go. Once we put it out there, we let it go, and it's in God's hands, right?
Right.
Because we don't want to be involved. We don't want to interfere.
We don't want to be needy.
Yes, we don't want to come from a needy place. We know it's taken care of. And so that brings me to the affirmations, which that's one affirmation I created for myself last year, the year before. Anyways, and they've helped me. And I'll read you through a list of affirmations, and you can pick the one that resonates the most with you, or a few, if that's the case for you, and just write them down. And I will write them down in the comments or in the section below the video. So you can write them down, you can speak them out loud, say them in your mind, or sing them, or whatever. So the first one is, I am the creator of my life. And I have the power to create anything I want in my life. I trust the process of life. All I need is always taken care of. Life supports me in every possible way. Thank you for taking care of this for me. Thank you for making everything fall into place at the right time, just as it needs to be. Thank you for providing me with everything that I need to create the abundant life that I want. And then one that is money related, which has helped me with my money mindset. And I bet everyone has some limiting beliefs around that. Every time I would spend money, I would feel some guilt. And I didn't like that. So I started saying that affirmation every time I would spend money. And then it kind of like put me in a vibration of like acceptance and peace and joy. And then let go of that guilt, which is actually lack-based and fear-based. So the affirmation is, I'm grateful for this money and what it provides for me. And there is more of it for me from where it's coming from, or from where it came from. So focus on the aspect that there's no lack of money. It's not because I'm spending money that I have less money now. No, there's more. There's more for me from where it came from. So all is well in my world.
Yeah, and it's good to think too how God views money. Money is just an energy.
Hmm.
Money is just an energy. So whatever our energy is, we'll attract. So if we have limited beliefs around money, well, we're going to attract limited money, you know. So
Hmm.
it's not money that is the root of all evil. It's the emotional
Yep. Attachment.
frequencies, the emotional attachment that we attach to it that actually repels what we're trying to attract.
And what we
So,
do with it. Like, is
and
your motive
yes,
to get
yes,
money? Is your motive for getting money to serve yourself and your ego and boast in pride about it, or is your motive for getting money to serve others and the greater purpose and to put your money to use for whatever is set up for you as your purpose? Like, money is a tool. It's
yeah,
just a commodity. It
yeah,
comes and goes, right? Mhm.
yeah.
All right, beautiful. Well, thank you, Lori. I want to let our audience know that this is not the last of our time together. This was the first episode of 12, maybe more, episode of our Laws of the Universe series. And next month, we will continue on the law of vibration and the law of attraction. This time, though, it will be a live call where people will be able to register in advance and attend live so that they can ask questions and interact with us and do some exercises together. And so we'll leave it open for whoever wants to join us on that call next month. And we'll email or send out information about it so you know when it is and how to register for it. And this episode will be, it is recorded, so it will be posted on our platform so you can rewatch it before next one. So that will be a prerequisite so that we make sure that everyone is on the same page. And yeah, we're looking forward for more next episode next month. And then we'll touch on all the laws after that. And also, if you want to learn more about the laws of the universe before our next episode, I did write an article on my blog about them a while ago, and I'll post a link to it so that you can just skim through. If you don't want to read the article, I recorded an audio of it so you can listen to it. You just have to scroll down at the bottom of the article. And also, if you haven't gotten yourself a copy of Lori's book, oops, there it is. Get it, read it. I'm pretty sure you'll have time in a month to read it. I went through it super fast because that would also be a good foundation to understand the laws more and the references that we're giving. And of course, it's not an obligation, but it would be a plus. And I'll also post a link to it below that video. And yeah, Lori, is there anything else you want to add? Or if people want to connect with you before next episode, ask questions, like where can they reach out and all that?
For sure. You can always reach me on my author website. It's called LoriKostenuk.com, and that'll be in the link below. And you'll be able, there'll be contact information for me there. And yeah, I'm looking forward to next month, and yeah, just
The months after?
yeah, in the very month after, yeah, the many months after, for sure.
And maybe 2024 is the year that we're all going to manifest and attract to us the life of our dreams and more success and align ourselves with our purpose so that we're being our true self and who we're meant to be.
Exactly. Following the blueprint that's within us.
Yes, exactly. Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Lori. And we'll see more of you next month and in the months after that.
Very good.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye.